January 17, 1950, Boston's North End, just after 7 in the evening. 7 men walk up to the Brinks Incorporated depot wearing matching navy pea coats, chauffeurs' caps, and rubber Halloween masks. The same rough silhouette as a Brinks employee if you only glanced. They're not guessing which door to use. They're not fumbling with the lock. They have a key, copied from an original they stole and quietly returned months earlier, so precisely that no one at Brinks ever noticed it had been gone. In under 30 minutes, they tie up 5 employees, empty the counting room of over $2.5 million in cash, checks, and money orders, and vanish into a truck waiting outside. When police arrive minutes later, there's nothing left to find except rope, tape, and a single chauffeur's cap. The FBI will call it, almost admiringly, the crime of the century. And for nearly 6 years, they will be completely unable to charge a single person for it. Not because the gang was too careful to ever slip up, but because of something almost no heist movie ever shows you. What happens after 11 men have to keep the same secret for 6 straight years. The idea belonged to Anthony Fats Pino, a Sicilian-born career criminal well known to both the Boston underworld and the police who kept arresting him for one particular skill: casing a building until he understood it better than the people who worked there. When Pino learned that virtually all the cash collected by Brinks armored trucks across the city passed through one North End depot every single evening, he became fixated on a single question: what would it take to walk out of that building with everything inside it? The answer took him nearly 2 years to build. Pino brought the idea to Joseph Big Joe McGinnis, a respected figure in Boston's criminal circles, who signed on and helped assemble a crew of 10 additional men, each contributing a specific skill: lock work, driving, inside knowledge, muscle. Among them, Joseph Specs O'Keefe, valued specifically for his skill at breaking and entering. The detail that separates this heist from almost every other bank robbery in American history. Pino's crew didn't rob the building. They studied it for 18 months before they ever touched a dollar. They tracked truck schedules, guard rotations, and the building's daily rhythm with the patience of surveillance professionals. When they discovered the depot's cash reserves were protected behind a series of locked doors, they didn't force them. They broke in, at night, repeatedly, removed the lock cylinders one at a time, had duplicate keys cut by a locksmith, and returned the originals before anyone noticed. They even stole the blueprints to the building's alarm system long enough to copy them, then returned those too. By the night of the robbery, the plan had been rehearsed enough times that 30 minutes was all it took. Most of the gang waited outside the building for a signal from a lookout stationed on a nearby rooftop. When the all-clear came, 7 men entered while Pino and the getaway driver stayed with the car, a level of division of risk that tells you something about how deliberately structured this operation was from the start. Inside, the 5 Brinks employees closing up for the night were tied and gagged before most of them fully understood what was happening. The gang filled 14 canvas bags with over $1.2 million in cash and another $1.5 million in checks and money orders, more than half a ton of material in total, and were gone within half an hour, meeting an 11th conspirator who hadn't taken part in the robbery itself at a safe house afterward to divide the loot. Original analysis: why the getaway itself matters as much as the robbery. The gang burned their disguises, delivered the getaway truck back to McGinnis to be destroyed, and left behind nothing except a chauffeur's cap, some rope, and tape. Evidence with no fingerprints, no distinguishing marks, nothing an investigator in 1950 could trace to a specific person. The Boston police superintendent said publicly, almost immediately, that this had to be an inside job, planned with blueprints and rehearsals. He was right about the method. He had no idea who. Here's where the gang made the decision that defines the entire rest of this story. They agreed before ever splitting a dollar of it not to touch the bulk of the stolen money for 6 years, the length of Massachusetts' statute of limitations for the crime. Whatever else happened, if they could simply wait it out in silence, they would be untouchable, permanently, no matter what the FBI eventually pieced together. Sit with the scale of that patience for a second. 11 men, several of them career criminals not exactly known for restraint, agreeing to sit on their share of over $2 million for 6 full years, trusting each other completely the entire time. That agreement, not the lockpicking or the rehearsals, may have been the single most audacious part of the entire plan, because it required something career criminals notoriously don't have much of with each other: durable trust. It didn't hold. Joseph O'Keefe, one of the 7 who'd actually entered the building that night, was arrested only months later for an unrelated burglary in Pennsylvania, alongside fellow gang member Adolph Jazz Maffey's associate, Stanley Gusciora. O'Keefe was sentenced to 3 years, Gusciora considerably longer. Facing a lengthy prison stay, O'Keefe did something that would ultimately unravel everything. He left his share of the Brinks money with another gang member for safekeeping and asked for money to help fight the conviction. This is the moment the perfect crime actually started to break, and it has nothing to do with detective work. From his cell, O'Keefe began writing angry letters to his former partners, demanding the money he was owed. When the demands weren't met to his satisfaction, the letters grew more pointed, and, according to later accounts, began carrying an implicit threat: "Pay me what I'm owed, or I might not stay quiet forever." Original analysis: why this is the real hinge of the whole case, more than any single piece of forensic evidence. Notice what actually threatens a conspiracy like this. It isn't police pressure, it's money. The same motive that built the heist in the first place, turned inward on the people who pulled it off. 11 men can keep a secret from the outside world with remarkable discipline. Keeping that same secret from each other, once the money itself becomes a source of resentment, is a completely different problem. Pino, according to later accounts, decided O'Keefe had become too dangerous to manage through negotiation. A hitman was sent to silence him permanently. The attempt failed. O'Keefe was shot and seriously wounded but survived, hospitalized rather than killed. The gang that had spent 18 months patiently avoiding a single unnecessary risk in the pursuit of a truly disciplined crime ended up nearly murdering one of their own over a dispute about money. The exact kind of reckless, emotionally driven violence the entire original plan had been engineered to avoid. O'Keefe survived in a hospital bed, badly wounded by the very people he'd once trusted enough to rob a bank alongside. The FBI, who had been circling the case for years without a confession, approached him there. On January 6, 1956, just 11 days before the statute of limitations would have run out completely, he decided to talk. Aftermath: O'Keefe's confession named all 11 men involved, described the planning down to the stolen alarm blueprints and duplicated keys, and gave the FBI, for the first time in 6 years, an actual case to build. On January 12, 1956, 5 days before the statute of limitations would have expired completely, federal agents arrested 6 of the gang members outright. 2 more were apprehended months later. One had already died. Another would die before trial began. O'Keefe himself pleaded guilty days after his confession. Why this ending lands differently than a typical justice was served close. 8 of the 11 men ultimately received maximum life sentences, but the case wasn't cracked by forensic brilliance, a lucky break, or years of dogged investigative work finally paying off. It was cracked because the gang's own greed and internal betrayal did what 6 years of FBI pressure couldn't, and it very nearly didn't happen at all. Had O'Keefe simply gotten his money back without complaint, or had the hitman Pino sent actually succeeded, there's a real possibility this remains, to this day, the one true perfect crime in American history. And even with the convictions, the case never fully resolved. Of the more than $2.7 million taken that night, less than $60,000 was ever recovered. To this day, no one knows what happened to the rest of it, whether it was spent quietly over years, hidden somewhere it was never found, or lost some other way entirely. The men went to prison. The money, for the most part, simply disappeared. One last piece of a meticulously planned crime that, in the end, wasn't undone by planning at all, but by exactly the kind of grudge, greed, and violence between partners that no amount of careful surveillance could have prepared them for.